Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Inked Reader. Today I am wrapping up the comics I have read in the last couple of months. Usually I would add those on my monthly wrap-ups, but I thought we were getting too long, and also been focusing more on single series, finishing series that I've started because I'm in the middle of a million of them, rather than reading 10 different comics every month, and therefore I thought I had less content that would just add up minutes to an already long video usually. Funny story, the May wrap-up is actually pretty short, but in general I thought about dividing them and just give you that kind of updates once I've got a few to wrap up. But let me know if you enjoy this format a bit more or not. Let's see. I'm gonna still put them from the least enjoyable read to the most enjoyable read. Bear in mind please that with comics, usually like I think I've got probably like the least enjoyable one is 3-star, 3.5 stars, so it's still very high quality overall. I usually enjoy comics when I read them just because I'm very picky in what I choose because they're very expensive and I read them very quickly. So let's start. Our number weather is here. We will see. So I have caved in and started Assassination Classroom. This is volume 1. It's a manga series that it's made of, I don't know how many volumes, but quite a few. And I really like this simple cover, and I'll show you some of the art, and I love the premise of this comic. This is about class 3E, this bunch of misfits. It's the class where no one wants to be. They are considered the losers of the school, the ones that are doing the most, you know, the poor job academic wise. So they're all put together in this class, and they have a very weird teacher. They have this kind of alien octopus creature as a teacher who is planning to destroy the world within, you know, by the time they graduate, unless they can kill him first. So the mission of the class is to kill their teacher with any way or with any tool they can. And you just follow these kids trying to kill their teacher, who is particularly clever and semi-immortal, basically. I love the premise. I thought it was so out there, so bizarre, that I was bound to like it, and I did. I think what eventually got me a bit is that although I liked the humor throughout, and I really enjoyed how I think this mangaka is taking this premise to actually show how kids that are considered misfits, you know, how they actually have potential if only you pay attention to them, if only you kind of tailor your teaching methods to what they are passionate about. So I like the kind of idea of these kids are redeemable academically and as persons, more than, you know, killing the actual teacher. I think the focus is more on the kids than the actual teacher, and the message behind it of, you know, maybe not doing great in school and yet there is a reason why you might not be doing well. And so this teacher, by just escaping their attempt to kill him, he also develops or utilizes different methods to actually make them shine through. And I really loved that part of the story. It is a bit repetitive in the sense that I think my fear is that in every issue you're gonna have these kids coming up with a plot trying to kill the teacher and they can't. So there is a part of me that it's curious to see how eventually, if they kill him, how they do it. And it's probably gonna be very clever. But also I am conscious that this is a very long series, so I wanted to ask you guys what you thought if you read the series. Is it worth the money? You can find these used for very cheap, like £2 to £3 each volume, so that would also be an option. But I've heard bad things about volume 2, and I was just like, do I continue on or not? Because although I do love the premise, I don't know if I want to invest a lot of money in these. So I wanted to hear from you and your feedback about, is it worth it in the end? Is it too repetitive? I kind of don't like episodic stuff. Like I tend to get bored quite quickly with episodic stuff when, you know, oh yeah, there's a new way of how to kill the teacher, let's try again, and then it fails, and then again and again. So I don't know, unless you can really spice it up a bit, or like, I don't know, find always such creative ways to repeat the same format over and over again, I will probably eventually become bored by this. But I will wait for your feedback and see what I want to do with the rest of the series. Then I will have to put, so this couple of months, One Piece volume 14 and volume 15. This is an epic swashbuckling fantasy. I have been loving the first the East Blue saga, so this is the second saga, and this is Baroque Baroque works. I don't know if I'm pronouncing correctly. And I loved the Netflix adaptation, so I wanted to continue on and move on to the next saga. But these ones, I think, because One Piece is such a lengthy saga, they have been quite slow, less exciting than other volumes. And I think in volume 14, at one point, I got a bit frustrated on how unclear the fighting scenes are. So especially if it's a volume all based on fighting the current enemy that they're fighting, and I can't understand what's going on the page, after a while I kind of find myself scrolling through the pages quite quickly and not really getting anything in, because for me it's quite unclear what's happening. I'll show you a bit of the art. Probably my only critique of One Piece is that I think the fighting scenes are not the best and they're very messy, and so they kind of get me a bit bored after a while, because just I don't understand what's going on. And this also is a saga that, despite the fact that it is a bit episodic in the sense that every time there is a new enemy for them to fight, because they travel around and they come across all kinds of creatures, all kinds of islands, and I love the crew so much. I don't get bored, and it does really feel new overall. Maybe not volume by volume, but in general I stay excited. That's what I hope for these two to have the same. So yeah, overall I will continue One Piece, well, like 100%. But yeah, I found these probably like a build-up volumes to the big enemy, whether it's happening or it's gonna happen soon after these two volumes. But I'm curious what people think are, like, if you've read all One Piece, what is your favorite saga of One Piece? Because I'm just at number 2, but I'm curious to, to kind of gauge people's thoughts about the different sagas. And then I put these here, but I could have put these like way higher up. These are 5 stars for me. It's Rick and Morty volume 9. There are only 12 volumes in this series of Rick and Morty in graphic novel format, and this is the 2012 run, 2015 run maybe, I don't remember. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Rick and Morty. This is the art. I am a big fan of Rick and Morty, and I think for me it's quite difficult to explain why I love it so much. And it's not only the art and the characters that make me laugh just to look at them, but it's the kind of adventures that we go on. It's how the author and creators use media, movies, things that we can all kind of, are familiar with, and tropes that we are familiar with, and twist it in a comic yet thoughtful and absolutely bizarre way. That's the combination of all of them that makes me laugh so much. In this volume in particular, we had, for example, one point like this kind of bunch of enemies from different previous volumes and previous issues that would come together and trying to get Rick finally. And all of them I could remember from the other volumes, because all of them were such out there characters that had sticked in my mind. So when they appeared again, I was like, oh my god, here we go again, and I had genuine laughs. It's like that time where you sit down, your mind goes blank, and you just, I immerse myself in Rick and Morty, and I never know what to expect. I also love how the family dynamics play out, because these characters by now. I know these characters quite well, and they never disappoint in their own disappointing way. For example, I'm thinking about Jerry. Jerry is just absolutely so lame, but at the same time Rick and Morty wouldn't be Rick and Morty without Jerry. And so it's how everything fits in. It's also the amount of like art, like, and colors and creatures and monsters, and also it's very funny. So I am a huge fan of Rick and Morty, and these, so yeah, I will definitely acquire the last 3 volumes at some point and finishing, and I'm gonna miss them when they are gone. So now we're getting to the point where it's very difficult for me to put them in order, so I kind of enjoy them pretty much the same, which means a lot. So let's start with Vagabond volume 4. I had missed Vagabond, and this is a series that I am taking my time in reading simply for an economic reason. Like, I want to collect these in these special editions, and because of these are quite expensive. So each one of these volume, at least in UK, is at least £15 when you can find it for cheap. So I couldn't basically collect once a month. It's not something that at the moment I can do. And so I have to kind of pace myself, and now and then when I find a good deal, I would purchase it. But I've been missing Vagabond so much. Vagabond is the story, it's inspired by a true historic figure of Japan, and I believe it's one of the most famous Ronin, samurai / Ronin, of Japan, and this comic is very slow in itself. A panel that the dialogues are not the center part of it. I think, you know, the art talks a lot, and I love the art to bits. I will sound like a broken record, but Vagabond is some of the best art I've ever seen, and it really, usually I read comics quite quickly, so I would just, you know, go through the pages quite quickly, while with Vagabond I find myself taking my time, pacing myself differently, just so I can really enjoy every line because I am in awe of the amount of facial expressions and atmospheres it can communicate through this form of art. I know the manga are incredible, and then I've read some incredible manga and how talented the people are, but I'm always in awe when you can really make me feel like I'm in a forest and it's dark and there is this, you know, moon shining through, and then the fighting scenes are so well done, they're so clear. I can really see this kind of swords cut through the air, and it's just amazing. I have this kind of odd relationship with Miyamoto, Musashi, whatever you want to say, because I want to see where is it going, but I also have a weird vibe when I read about him. Like something is, I don't know, I'm worried of him. I would be very worried of him in real life. Like something of his demeanor, his determination as well, but also like his potential for violence is scary. And somehow, for example, I always compare this a bit to Berserk, although it's completely different. Like this is not grim dark fantasy, this is a historical fiction manga. There's no fantasy elements in here, but while with Guts I had an emotional connection, so someone was capable of incredible violence like Guts was, I really felt tender toward him. With Miyamoto, I don't feel the same tenderness. I don't feel like I want to hug him, or I would probably just stay back, and I don't know why. But the fact that he is inspiring me to have such like conflicting emotions, admiration, but again fear, it talks about the power of his saga, his manga series. Now, I'm also a sucker for a good love story, and I have no idea what's gonna happen to Miyamoto and his potential other half. You know who I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but the moment that we get in here when they meet and what happens, and again the emotions that sparked in me, and I could really feel the angst and the desire and the impossibility of it all. So how is this playing out very slowly, like torturously slowly, it's really getting to me, and I've actually ended up after a couple of months being able to purchase volume 5, so I'm gonna continue on. Is there only 9 volumes out of these that you know of this edition containing 3 volumes? Let me know. Also, can we appreciate the spine of this? Yeah, I'm growing more fond of Vagabond by each volume, and I feel quite invested now in finding out what happens next, and I choked on nothing, and so now my voice sounds weird. I'm gonna put number 2 and 1, which could almost go side by side, the 2 series I completed, manga series I completed. Now this one is a series I completed, but it's part of a bigger series, so I'm gonna continue on. The other one is done. And I'm talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. So I've read volume 3 and finished this saga. So I finished Battle Tendency with volume 4, which was a chunker. And I'm gonna show you also the back of his gorgeous copies of JoJo's. This is the back. This is one of the back guys. Let me see if I can. So this volume 3, came with a lot of colored pages. And I must say, before I say anything else about this saga, I love the color pages in JoJo's. They really add something that usually I don't miss colors that much in comics, but with JoJo's, I don't know, I just have this feeling that if it was all colored, it would be so amazing. I know many people will think like, no, it's a manga, you can't have it colored, but well, I love when JoJo does colored pages. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a brief thought about what I thought about the single volume, and then what I thought in general. So volume 3 broke my heart. and I really loved this. I think I gave this 4.5 stars initially. I really enjoyed it. It's not surprising what happens. I was expecting something like this to happen, but the combat scenes are the way these characters have to find clever ways to combat the bad guys. I always love, like, the enemies are still my favorite things about JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, like this kind of amazing enemies that they come up with. I just love them. In this one, yeah, I found it slightly more messy than volume 3 and more rushed. Despite this is a bit of a chunker, as I said, and it's a very long volume, I still thought that they could have expanded these in 5 volumes and have more time with what happens in here, because there are so many things that need to be resolved, and somehow they do feel like, oh, let's speed up because we need to, you know, conclude this with volume 4. So I wish he had done one more volume, take things a bit more slowly. I loved, though, again, all the combat scenes. They are a bit more messy in these. Some of the combat scenes were less clear than any of the other volumes, but it was very gladiatory, and Gladiator is one of my favorite movies ever, so I loved that part. I also loved how there's a big discussion in here in respecting the power, and in the power, physical power, but also the intellectual power of your enemies, and how in the end, if you're defeated by someone who is such a worthy opponent, there is kind of an honor in dying that way, and I loved that part of JoJo's. One thing I must say about this one in particular, and I'm probably hopefully gonna have to say this only regarding this saga, because now at the end of this we jump in time, so hopefully we're done with this thing. What's up with Araki and the Nazis? One of the reasons why I couldn't give these a 5 stars, because he over and over again through these battle tendencies, I think he does only in battle tendency, I don't remember if he does in the saga before, he kind of takes this Nazi figure and he makes him to the hero, like the saves the day multiple times. And so having this figure appear and save the day over and over again, and you know, and it doesn't let us forget that he's a Nazi. It really bothered me, because I mean with all the kind of figures you can find, why a Nazi? I understand that, you know, bad people are capable of good and all of that concept, but I thought that it was a bit of an obsession there. And even at the end, when he kind of recap what happens to his characters throughout the saga, he talks about this character as someone who dies honorably, and I'm just like, listen man, like it's just bad taste. And I don't know, maybe an editor or someone should have caught it. I just think, you know, we can put up with a lot, but a good Nazi, that's probably where I draw the line. And so that bothered me quite a lot, and I was like, oh, come on man, you can find anybody else. So yeah, I don't wanna make my own mind on why that might be that he chose the Nazi guy as the unlikely hero. I don't know, it's nostalgia, because I know that Japan and Germany were allies during World War II. I don't know what's going on there. I just don't want to speculate. I just found quite off-putting at times of, you know, with his choice of this character. And it would have been a cool character if it had been literally coming from any other background apart from, you know, being a Nazi German. And which also want to specify, because it's not like, it's not presented to us like just a German soldier, is repeatedly and constantly called the Nazi throughout the series. So just to specify why I'm kind of also highlighting this thing, because he himself like, oh, here comes the Nazi saving the day, and like, yeah, okay. Anyway, overall I enjoyed this part of this second saga quite a lot. I would say potentially because I enjoyed all 4 volumes, while the first saga I enjoyed a few volumes but not all. I could say that I enjoyed this more overall, and I'm looking forward to continue on. The next saga is the longest one that I know of, and also is the last one that's adapted in this edition, so let's see what I do after. Overall though, my final thoughts on JoJo is that this is a very simple story in its concept, in the sense that, you know, you have the hero against the villains, which are the best thing of JoJo, the villains. and you have both this sort of immature hero that needs to, you know, to kind of grow up throughout the saga. So you start usually with an immature hero that through the hardships of life and combat will eventually grow, and you have a bunch of side characters that somehow will inspire our main protagonist to get angry, fight back, and ultimately win the fight. Sometimes the side characters are love interest, sometimes they are friends that have to die in order for the hero to get angry. So it's in that sense, it's not the newest thing I've ever read. However, again, it is the body proportions. No, I'm kidding. It's not. Yeah, the body proportions are absurd, but it's the bad guys. It's the bad guys and the type of combat that they go in, like the kind of how they use the elements and how they use this odd sort of magic at all times to fight each other, and how they really need to kind of think about how, you know, to make the next move in order to win the opponent against the opponent. It's just the combat is so interesting. It keeps me glued to the pages. So yeah, continue on with JoJo's next saga whenever, but I'm so happy that I concluded these and I loved it. And at number 1, I would have to put, well, not in order because they're all messed up, but we'll figure it out. I have read, so I've finished. I'm coming, promise. I have finished Hell's Paradise, and I've read from volume number 9 to volume 13, and I had to take a pause at number 10 because volume 11 was out of print, and then I went on Vinted, which saved my life, and I could find like volume 11 for a very reasonable price, actually cheaper than I could find on a website, and I jumped on it. So I finished this, and I'm gonna kind of unpack here what I thought about these volumes and overall. However, let me know if you would like for me to go into a spoilery review of these, because I might do a separate video or I might not. Here I'm not going to include any spoilers. So I read volume initially 8. I'm going to show you the covers, the back. Of this volume, I initially wrote down my thoughts saying that, you know, I'm getting so attached to these characters, I am scared now to go ahead because I don't want to see them suffer, and if I knew only. Then I have read volume 9. And I really enjoyed this, how now at some point in the story different characters go on kind of smaller groups and face different fights, and it was really nice for me to see all of those kind of different groups fighting, because I could really get more closer to the smaller groups and the singular characters, and I really enjoyed the fighting scenes in these. In this volume, a lot happens. I think this volume was so packed with adventures and things that happened, and like how, you know, the story actually moved forward quite a lot in this volume. And because of how fun it was, I added a 0.5 when I rated this volume, so I rated this 4.5. While the other volumes, I think I rated around 4 stars. But this one gets to a 4.5. And Shujin, this guy here, I'm going to just show you this guy here. So he's a very basic character if you want. He's a character that I have seen before. However, it's still fascinating. It's still those kind of characters with a kind of bleak determination that are absolutely uncorruptible that really fascinate me. So I really enjoyed how we follow way more on him in this volume. And then I had to take a bit of a break, and I resumed with volume 11, which I am actually very glad I didn't pay much money for, because volume 11 was probably to these days my least favorite volume of Hell Paradise. I think very little happened. I think this was mostly a filler up volume. These characters were most interesting in this volume. I did like the end and what happens with Kabimaru. Hope I'm not butchering the name. Sorry, I didn't also show you the art. Now that, no, hopefully it's not too spoilery, but I'll show you quickly. Don't read the dialogue so you don't get spoiled. But yeah, I didn't love this volume. It's probably to these days the one I liked the least in the whole saga. But then volume 12 and volume 13, which I read back to back because I just needed to know. They were so good. Such a good ending of this story. This was emotional, was heartbreaking. It was a difficult one to read, but the way it ended, it had that kind of sparkle that sometimes when I watch a movie or when I read books of things like that it feels like the epic moment where everything is conveying, it's happening, and the tension is being building, and then something happens and the stakes are even more raised now, and the final battle, you know, the final showdown, it's so proportionate to how good the rest of the series was. The guy nailed the ending. He nailed the final battle. He made it enough twists and turns for me to kind of, okay, we're there, no, we're not there, okay, we're there, oh my god, no, now everything is lost, and then there is a spark, and then it's destroyed. So the tension, and how much tension for how long he kept, it was perfect. I loved how the whole saga was about the meaning of life, honor, what it means to love someone. How it ended, brilliant. I wished he had ended one issue before though. I loved how at one point, the second to last issue, we are left with a bit of a mystery. We are left to make up our own mind on where did they, didn't they, what happened to these characters, and instead in the last issue everything is everything is resolved with a neat bow, and I would have loved if it wasn't, in a sense, but I'm not complaining. I'm happy to have seen things, but potentially I would have thought about the ending a bit more if I was left with, oh, I guess maybe this happened or maybe this happened, but not complaining again. It was so good. Very well done series. It was angsty, it was clever, it was heartbreaking when it needed to be. He had very good side characters, one very good main character. Thank you guys, because someone of you recommended this to me and I generally had an amazing time. This is a grim dark fantasy series that also had a lot of cool monsters in it. It was, I think, the right length. I don't think that pushing these or stretching these more would have necessarily served as well as these did. I'm very upset that the manga, the anime adaptation failed miserably. Let me know if it's still maybe worth checking the first season, but I think it was cancelled, and I think it's a true pity because I don't understand how you can literally butcher something like this, especially because it's from the studio Mappa, isn't it? The same that did Attack on Titan. So why? What happened there? I'm upset because I thought this was very good material to be adapted. But loved it, and please guys, leave your recommendations down below in the comments, because you know they work very well. A lot of the times they work brilliantly for me, and I ended up finding a beloved series of mine. Okay guys, thank you for watching. Please truly leave down the recommendation, and thank you so much for whoever recommended Hell's Paradise. I am horrible with names, like it's a thing where I can't remember a name unless, you know, I hear it like 1,000 times, but whoever you are, if you're still watching, thank you so much. I absolutely loved it. And if you're new, I would love for you to subscribe and join this small community. I also wanted to show you my t-shirt because it's new and I love it. Can you see it? And I am wearing it today when I am now heading off to the Tool concert in London. So yeah, wish me luck when I'm filming this. I'm about to leave for the concert. So yeah, I'll see you next time. If you're new, I would love for you to subscribe and join the small community. Take care of yourself. Ciao!